Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to this new edition of Latamia. CNM, Centre National de la Musique, organizes today a new chapter of Latamia dedicated to music synchronization in Brazil. During the panel, our expert guests will present some characteristics and share their advice and best practices for developing international music projects in Brazil. Among the various topics that will be discussed today will be musical supervision, some legal and publishing aspects, as well as a more global look at the challenges of exporting music from Europe to Latin America. Today, I'm very glad to have around the table the speakers Mario Dipoy, a music supervisor from Input, Guilherme Coutinho, publisher and lawyer from Phonolite, Mauricio Bussab, music supervisor at Kiwii, and the panel is moderated by Rachel Graham, publisher and consultant of Passé project. This event has been created in collaboration with Dani Ribas, director of Sonar Cultural Consultancy, and the help of the French Embassy in Brazil. If you're interested in some other topics of Latamia and other markets such as Mexico or Colombia, as well as Brazil, you can check them out online on our website, cnm.ifr, and check out the international resources. And now I'm very glad to give the floor to the team and the speakers and Rachel for the moderation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Benjamin. Dani, would you like to start and say a few words?
Yeah. So I'm Dani Ribas. It's a big pleasure to be here. I'm a Brazilian consultant for this project, Latamia. So thank you, Benjamin, for the invitation to be the consultant with this project. It's a big pleasure to collaborate to CNM, Centre National de la Musique, France, and the Benjamin team. Well, I don't have so much to talk today because we have the invited here. This panel is about synchronization, and we invited great Brazilian professionals to be with you here today. So enjoy the panel. A good panel to all. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dani. So most of you joining here are going to be connecting from Europe and from France, but also I'm sure there will be some people from the local market in Brazil. Feel free to put your questions and comments in the direct chat that you have in front of you on YouTube or however you're connecting. If it's in Portuguese, I will rely on Mauricio and Mario and Guilherme to help me to translate those. But if it's in French or in English, the questions are welcome. But the panel will be in English. So thank you for joining us. And to save a bit of time, we've changed up the format. We're not going to go around and do all the introductions and have everyone share where they've come from and where they are now. Instead, we're going to dive straight into the conversation, and I'm going to introduce the speakers as we go. But of course, if you have something to say and you haven't yet been formally introduced, jump in, and then we can get to the introduction after. So without further ado, sync market, Brazil, here we go. Trying to orientate us directly into what the sync market in Brazil might look like, I was asking Mario, who is involved with music supervision, sound design, a lot of sound with post-production, as well as a lot of international experience. If he could tell us a bit about how Brazil is situated in the sync market, the similarities and differences it might have with a market that we're a little bit more familiar with, because it's a bit louder, which is the US market. So Mario, can you tell us a little bit about your experiences between the Brazilian market and the US market for sync?
Yeah, sure. I think first, thank you, Rachel and Mauricio and Guilherme to be in this panel. Thank you, Benjamin and Dani. and everybody that is watching. Well, I think Brazilian market is behaving in some ways in a similar fashion than United States market, but of course with less budget yet. But the thing is, everything changed when the VOD operators came to our country, like Netflix, Amazon, Disney Plus, and all. The thing I think it's in common is that the music supervision community in Brazil was kind of formed by American music supervisors that were coming here often in the past 5 years to make conferences, workshops, the Guild of Music Supervisors that now has a presence in Brazil as well. So we became really close to these music supervisors, and we are reproducing in our own way some best practices on that market. So for instance, and this is why I told about the VODs on the beginning, because everything digital in Brazil exploded, like Spotify, Deezer, YouTube, TikTok. So Brazil is basically a digital monster. It's a huge country, huge mobile user country. People like social network a lot and everything. So this made us really attractive in terms of numbers for Spotify, for Deezer, for YouTube, and in consequence for Netflix, Amazon, and all the VOD platforms. This is why Brazil is one of the largest markets for Netflix, and it's the largest market for Disney Plus in Latin America, for instance.
So the supervisors having this close relationship with the supervisors in the U.S. and sort of modeling the system, but it's not just U.S. supervisors that work on projects in Brazil. There are also Brazilian supervision companies and things like that. Can you drop some names of some supervision companies that are, I mean, obviously there's global companies, that are going to have outposts all over, and then there's also local companies. So yeah, just on top of the US ones that we might know, some specifically Brazilian, people that are big in the market.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the thing is, lots of people were doing music supervision in Brazil without knowing it. So it's a matter of describing what the profession looks like. But we have several what we call here sound post companies, something like that, or music companies that were also doing licensing. We're also picking music and curator for TV shows, for feature films, etc., and doing custom made music. So and some of them already were involved in the legal aspects of it. And when this label music supervision dropped in, it was really fast to fit some companies and some people on it. One of the biggest music supervisors that we have in Brazil is Patrícia Portaro, for instance. She's involved in several VOD shows and films in the past, I don't know, maybe 10 years. And she come from a legal background. So there's Gustavo Montenegro, which is a music supervisor for Bacurau, which was a very big film. And there are lots of companies like my company Input. There are other sound and music companies that work in the territory. But it's more organized now than it was 5 years ago. And also, one of the things that contributed to this is that the major labels and the distribution companies, the publishers, started to organize sync departments as well. So one thing leads to another,
Right. Okay. And as far as the market share, would you say that there's more going on being created in Brazil? Because obviously there's content that's created elsewhere that maybe they choose a new music and to put it into the Brazilian market. But as far as production being based in Brazil, would you say that across the board it's pretty even? There's a lot of television, advertising, cinema, gaming, virtual reality, or is there one or a few aspects that are more produced in Brazil than the others?
Yeah, I think from a budget perspective, advertising is bigger because the budgets for advertising for sync it's bigger. But I think this is not true just here; it's everywhere.
Right.
But in terms of volume of market share, on my opinion, the VOD is dominating right now because they're producing a lot, and there's this culture of syncing music in VOD, and in Brazil, in the local productions, due to budget and history and things like that, some directors and some production companies are not used to license music, so they're usually go after custom made music. It's our culture here to have, like in the feature films, not much licensed music but more custom made music.
Right.
And this is changing, in my opinion, because of the VOD. And another big player in the market is Global. It's a major network in Brazil. They sync a lot, and they pay very good performance rights to whoever has tracks on it. So it's a natural destination for labels, publishers, and everybody that wants to be in the sync market here in Brazil as well. But just a minute, sorry. For games are, despite we have big game companies in Brazil like Wildlife, which is a $1 billion game producer, they are usually more connected to mobile games and also to custom made music. So we don't have too much like drama fiction games, narrative storytelling games that uses sync more.
Yeah. No Brazilian Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, not yet.
Okay. Super. So that's a lot of good information. That the sort of international VODs are sort of bringing in a lot more sync than you would normally have. Otherwise, it's more composition. And I guess skipping down.
Also library music is huge in Brazil as well.
That's what I was going to say, and which is a good caveat to get Mauricio in the conversation here from Kiwii, who is working in music supervision, but also has a sort of non-traditional, pre-cleared, sync-focused library of music. And I don't say library of music, but a library of music because you're working with all kinds of artists, and then I'm assuming that the music is not being made for sync. It's more you're finding these artists and you're curating this library to propose to sync.
Yeah,
if that's correct.
Yeah, hi everybody. Thanks again for inviting us. We began as Trattore. Trattore is a distribution company. It's a digital aggregator. 20 years old. We started as a physical distribution company, CDs, plastic, if people remember that. Right now, Trattore has 200,000 tracks being distributed over all those services. Of that, 10%, around 20,000 tracks, are pre-cleared, both recording and publishing, for use with sync. So that's what we call the Kiwii library. It's a library that's ready to be used, can be authorized immediately by anybody. We call it a song library more than a music library, too, not to confuse with the
exactly.
We do, yeah, and you're right. We do not produce
music
custom material, no.
Right. And so, do you find that having this library of music that is a one-stop gives you an advantage for placing music for sync in Brazil?
We thought it would. I'm telling you this. I'm saying here is personal experience, and there's nothing theoretical. It's just what happened. We started very timidly, very slowly, about 4 years ago, and doing that, curating a library that could be pre-cleared, and we thought that would be a major use. But then we quickly realized that the market is split in three. Advertising is a beast of its own. Is completely different than anything else. It's big budgets. They go to the production houses. They know what they want. They have deep pockets, and they very rarely come to us. We're not in the radar usually, but because they go to the production companies and they ask what they want, and the production company, they will produce or they will license from. They arrive knowing that they want the Beatles, and they will go for that. So it's usually not in our radar. We don't cross paths very much.
Okay.
The second market is the market for that kind of music that is pre-cleared library type music. Usually, what is wanted is instrumental music, not songs, and that's being used a lot for short films, YouTube, internal content, training videos. That's been used a lot too. We license for podcasts too. So that happens on its own. And the third market, which is completely different, is the market for VOD, for example, or feature films, which is it's a lot of songs. We were very surprised that songs were that much wanted. Not so much instrumental music, and they want interesting, sexy songs that fit well in the scene. And what another surprise for us was that being in Portuguese, the song being in Portuguese is not that much of a barrier as we thought it would be for international films. We worked with all the major VODs, and there was very little restrictions with the fact that the music was in Portuguese. When the music works, it doesn't matter what language it is. So I think that's also good news for
France.
For French musicians. Yeah.
Sure. And so that's amazing information. Thank you, Mauricio. And so looking at if language doesn't matter, does the level of notoriety of the artist play a factor at all in getting sync? I mean, obviously, you say for ads, it's either music that is made for the ad specifically, or it's really known, international big heavy hitting tracks like you say the Beatles or a Beyonce or your Kanye's or whatever. So if language is not a real barrier, is the notoriety of the artist, is that important for placement in the market?
When it's important, it's not something that we will have. It's Rihanna, it's Beatles, it's something that we won't have. The level of notoriety that is needed for advertising, for example, is a level of notoriety that what we have is not there. So.
But for a smaller artist, does it play a factor?
Doesn't matter. Okay. Well, what we say here is this, that sync is interesting because if you want to be a mid-size indie artist, successful indie artist, you have to convince 1 million listeners that your music is good. If you want to do it sync, you have to convince like 3 people that your music is good.
Yeah, it's true.
And that works. I mean, all the stuff that we synchronized so far was not selected for its recognition. Ever, I think, ever.
It's pretty refreshing. It's refreshing to hear that it's a much more creative led decision.
Yeah.
and pulling Guilherme.
Can I give an extreme example?
Sure.
I don't think I can say what movie it was. It's a second feature film of a big comic book movie from the US. They wanted one of our songs that the artist had 9 monthly listeners on Spotify, and they wanted that song. Even the artist said, "Why do they want my song?" and actually they wanted something that sounded not so good for a scene. Sometimes you need that, they didn't. In the end, we didn't close the deal, but we almost did. And it would be a case where they wanted something for the scene, that they needed something that sounded a bit off,
like lo-fi.
Yeah, and or not that well executed. The guy said, "Well, I was still learning. That was 10 years ago. My new songs are much better." And I didn't have the heart to tell him that, they wanted something that's not that well executed. But yeah, sometimes you need that. Ooh, I think people froze, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But but let's make the show run. So,
Mario, you go, Mario. You go.
yeah, I totally agree with you. And some in a conference that we organized in Brazil, a friend of mine called Jeff Siegel. He's a sync rapper. And Jeff Siegel once told me that I asked him on the panel, what is the best song for sync? And he said, song that works. And this pretty much tells everything, because the thing is, you never know what you need. I'm just on a project like now that I need favela funk music, and in another project I need the pisadinha music, and on the other project I need a Nelly Furtado song. So it's everything. And it's not that thing like, oh, needs to be a well produced music, mastered and etc. Because you have this situations, awkward situations where you need strange music to fit in.
I have a personal example. We had a meeting with a group of Andes Bolivian flute music, and they wanted to know what was the potential for sync. And I said, well, man, I don't know. I know very little for those pan flutes from Bolivia.
Yeah.
And they started distributing with us. The following week, we got a request for an Andean flute music for sync.
See, that's it. It's a shelf. It needs to
And
have
also,
options.
I guess, Mario, as a music supervisor, sometimes people ask you for a well-known artist song, but they don't have the budget, so you have to manage to show them some options that are like cheaper. So it also happens a lot, huh?
Sorry for my technical difficulty. I have no idea what happened. Everything just went black. But thank you for carrying on, and for the recounting some stories. It was good to give people an idea of how it's working. So Guilherme, I was getting ready to say, thank you for joining us. Independent publisher, lawyer or law background with your publishing company. And so I wanted to ask you, what are the trends of the genre of music being used at the moment across different media types? And do you find your specific catalog, is it focused on one type of music, or do you have a little bit of everything? Tell us a bit about that.
First of all, hello everyone. How are you? And thanks, Rachel, for introducing myself. I hope the video and audio are okay. Well, I have this one artist, Teco Martins, that he has all genres with him. So he does rock and roll, he does popular music. So I'm more with a rock background because I had rock bands, so I know the people. But also, like big, like Odair José. It's a traditional artist here, and I have some songs of him in my catalog. So it's kind of diverse as it is Brazil. It's difficult, very difficult question to answer. Like what kinds of genres? Because I hope not to disappoint all the French audience, but I gotta say that Brazilian people consume a lot of Brazilian music. So just yesterday, I was checking the Spotify charts. There was only one international artist ranked in between the 50 top songs in Brazil. It was Harry Styles with 2 songs. Like it's absurd. I don't know if there is any other country like that. So we have
France.
like maybe France. Good example. So like we have local genres as sertanejo, that would be like the Brazilian country music that it's huge here. We have the carioca funk, the funk carioca, the Brazilian funk. We have piseiro. They all are represented on the charts, along with genres that are more international, like hip hop, trap, and pop music. We have like local artists doing that kind of music. So the local market, it's so big that a lot of the national artists have no time or interest to pursue an international career or something. So they can like do concerts all over Brazil and have a good and wealthy life in music just playing inside Brazil. But I guess I guess every genre has a space, even those that are not listed on the charts, like Mauricio was telling us about instrumental and maybe some world music. I guess for the gaming industry, urban music made by new artists, it's something like it seems like a perfect match. But like I have worked with some sports and clothing brands that commonly uses indie rock artists in their campaigns. So I guess there is no rule.
Okay, that's interesting. Here in France, we get a lot of briefs around cosmetics or perfume. They want it to be very percussive, so that the ads can be fast. And so it leans a lot towards electronic music or music with electronic elements. But it sounds like there's more like indie rock elements across the board there than electronic music.
Sorry?
Is there more indie rock influence rather than electronic music influence in ads?
Yeah, especially. Yeah, I guess nowadays even like indie rock and electronic music are kind of getting together.
Yeah, there's a lot of crossover.
I was just watching this band Far From Alaska live here in São Paulo this weekend, and they have this song that it's like they wrote a song especially for a gaming contest, and they mix both rock and electronic. So I guess it's the boundaries are kind of shady nowadays.
It's true. And with Mario, go ahead.
Yeah, just taking a hook with Guilherme. It's Far From Alaska. We just licensed a track from them, and it's interesting because it's a rock band that have songs in English, and it's a Brazilian band. So we had them in a TV show for Disney, and singing in English, a Brazilian band. And they were in the beach with other English songs, but even considering this, the Brazilians are so like passionate by our way to sing in English that they prefer the Brazilian band singing in English than a real American or English band. So this is to say about the language barrier. It really doesn't exist here. It's about having the right song and the right thing. And considering like French and Brazil, how can, like for this panel, like how can French musicians, French artists, French labels have more presence in Brazil, since our cultures are so closed in themselves on terms of listening to music? I think the best way to break this is to make collaborations. So if I have a Brazilian band with a French singer, or the opposite, we can break the cultural barrier and bring the language on the package. For instance, if I have a Brazilian hip hop and then I have a break with a French hip hop artist, this can be amazing and this can work a lot for sync. If I don't know, you're doing like a Citroën campaign or a Renault or some French Brazilian action, this is I like this a lot.
Yeah, that's super
Mario,
interesting.
this example of this Disney show, like examples way, like it's a good example of how the genres are mixed, because I worked as a consultant in a contract for, I guess, the same TV show, and it was they wanted a song for like a gospel pop artist. So you have like this rock band with electronic music, and then you have this gospel pop artist in the same show. So it's kind of Brazil is like that.
Cool. And so the idea for having collaborations or content that's made like across country to help place it in the Brazilian market with Portuguese artists is something that could be very interesting. And obviously for someone from France to do that, would you say that you would then recommend having a Brazil-based sync or licensing representative or a publisher or a Portuguese-speaking partner? What's the setup that you think is ideal to channel non-Brazilian music into the Brazilian market?
I can answer a little bit for my personally. We are looking for content partnerships with companies that already have a catalog. So it will be a good. This is happening with people that have catalogs to exchange, to do a partnership with the content, so that we can offer content from France, and the French company can offer our content. I'm not sure I would produce tracks just without having a show, for example, committed to it.
Yeah, sure. That would have to be to brief, I think.
I would, but I would produce collabs for to play in on Spotify in Brazil. Why not? That's a good thing. My suggestions to people that have, I would give suggestions to people that have a big catalog and people that don't, that have a small catalog. Is if you have a big catalog, there are other companies like us here that have local catalogs that can do a partnership offering content from France. But if you don't have a big catalog, I think you should look for directors, editors on your own to offer your music and try to see.
To pitch directly.
And music supervisors, yeah. Music supervisors in Brazil are starting. The market is not well organized. It's not like in Europe, especially not like in the US. The US, there's a whole ecosystem of music supervisors and another side functions that go with that. Very organized. Patrícia Portaro that you mentioned, she's based in Los Angeles. Not by chance, because she's part of that ecosystem. We don't have that sorted out here yet. It's kind of we still have stories like a movie director that wants a certain song that doesn't even understand how much it costs. That's where the music supervisor would go in and explain.
Mm-hmm.
No, you can't do that. That's the budget we have. That's how we split it. But if you're a French artist or a French label and you have a catalog that you think can be used in Brazil, I would suggest that you either partner with somebody that uses content
can present
here,
it,
or try to find production houses, ad agencies, directors, editors in Brazil.
Okay, and just as a sort of aside, and maybe Guilherme, you can help to clarify a little bit about this. So in France, we work with the SACEM as who deals directly to collect funds for performance royalties and tracking. And then they also pay out the members. Whereas in Brazil, you have a different kind of system. You have the ECAD, which collects all the money and then gives that money to the different CMOs. So like this, our version of the SACEM being the person who is being paid and also the payer. You guys have one entity that is being paid, and then they pay on other people and the other CMOs, and then the CMOs pay directly their members. So it works a little bit differently. So from that perspective, I think it, like Mauricio said, it's good to maybe seek out partners. But would you say that it's intrinsically important to have a Brazilian publisher on your in this configuration?
Yeah, like first I have to say that in Brazil, like I guess 5% of the population have some knowledge of the English language. And if you take like French language, that would be like, I don't know, less than 1%. So definitely, if you have someone that can represent you in Portuguese here, that would be really important. First, because of the language, but also like we have like local cultural market characteristics, like some legal questions involved. I like to use the example of the cover of the Dark Side of the Moon album by Pink Floyd, where you have like this pyramid or this like triangular prism, where all those colors appear from just one beam of light. That example I use for like copyright in Brazil. You have like this input, you play a song on streaming, and then you have all those kinds of copyrights involved on that. One is the public performance. As you mentioned, we have the Brazilian Central Office for Collection and Distribution, the ECAD. We call it ECAD here. And they are responsible not only for author rights from the composition, but also neighboring or related rights from the sound recording. And as you said, like differently from SACEM in France, that deals directly with members, the ECAD, the ECAD, they distribute the money collected to seven civil societies whose members choose to be part of it. So we have the central office collect the money, then pass to seven civil societies, and then to the authors or all other holders. So we have UBC and Abramos are the two biggest societies. And they have most of the international contracts, so they pay for other countries and receive money from other countries. So ECAD collects the money, keeps 10% as a fee, then distributes to the societies that take 5% of the amount and give the 85% left to the copyright owners. And like, it's a big thing. Like ECAD, they collect more than R$1 billion, the Brazilian currency, every year, which is roughly $200 million, something like that nowadays. Like currency very value, so in like besides public performance rights, royalty and reply they're not controlled by ECAD. So the biggest issues EN, Brazilian Union.
Ô, Gui, não dá para. Você está picotando. Você está picotando.
Sério? It's better now.
Vê se é a bateria do fone, talvez.
Okay. Back to you.
Can I just add something, Rachel,
Sure.
to what Mauricio said before? It's true, you know, Brazilian music supervisor community, it's small, but it's growing really fast. As soon as people are becoming aware of this and are being requested to do this. So on the beginning, we did all this without knowing this. And when we started to know what to do, we started to work with the scripts. So we started to work at the music budgets. We started to have, for instance, in my company, we have a department of music. So we have music supervisor, music coordinator, we have music editors, true music editors, and we have a music assistant. And it's just people that works on films, on sync, on shows, and stuff like that. And I believe other companies are also organizing in a similar fashion, like the audio production companies. It's really, really small right now, but I think the market is asking for professionals like this. So more and more people are getting interested in diving into this world. So I know, for instance, people that were actually entertainment lawyers that are starting to become specialized in clearance. And we didn't have this kind of professionals in the market before. So we had like, I don't know.
I just want to clarify. I absolutely agree with you. I think it's going in that direction. It's getting better. It's getting better organized, but
Yeah,
still,
but it's really
it's
small.
starting.
It's crazy. I don't know. Maybe 5 people are doing this. It's totally, we have much more work than we can do. The true is that it's if we have a community of 1,000 music supervisors, maybe we can have work for all of them in different budget stages, but there's a need of this profession, clearance people, music supervisor, music editors, music coordinators to work
And
closely
working
with
and working
publishers.
primarily in Portuguese.
Yeah, this is key, because Brazil has it's experienced a boom of production. So we had a stop on the public funds for the last 3 years. I would say since the new government, all the film funds were stopped. So it's around, I don't know in euros, but it's like maybe 500 million euros, something like this, for local productions. And all the VODs and the TV broadcasters came in, jumped in, and started producing a lot. And then we have the VODs and everybody producing. And this year we just have the release of these funds. So we're gonna have all the work that we were having before, plus the public funds work. So I think there is a big wave of production coming in the next 3 to 4 years, and we will need music, we will need professionals, we will need people that understand the market to work with us for sure.
Okay. Guilherme, let's try your mic again and see if we're back on track.
Is it okay now?
Yeah, it sounds good. So
yeah, but I guess I was kind of finishing because in a brief, like in a nutshell, it's good to have some Brazilian representation. We have like some special characteristics here in Brazil, so it would be good to have someone to help you out and to understand how the market function and our legal system also. So it's kind of different from the French system. So it's nice to have someone to back you up.
Yeah, on the contracting side, do the contracts look different and the deals look different than they would to, like, let's say a US deal? I mean, I guess if you've got all the VOD platforms that are also working in Brazil, much like France, they try to impress all of their rules from the US onto the deal making that they do in France. And we've had some slight problems with that because some of the requirements for certain contracts for like Netflix, etc., don't match with the French law. So these had to be changed slightly, but essentially the deals are approximately the same as a US deal. Is it the same there? Are the contracts looking the same or similar to those of the US, or is there particularities to the deal that you could let us in on in Brazil?
I guess it's similar, especially like sync contracts. They can be really simple, like in opposite of other kind of contracts in the music business, when you are like a label and you have like other things to regulate. So like sometimes I see like sync contracts that they have like 2 pages. It's very specific, like what are you going to use, when, for like it's digital or not. So I guess it's not that different.
I think, Guilherme, I think what you could talk about a bit. It's pretty much the same. You have to license publishing and recording. The one thing that and then you get there's no, is retitling common in Brazil? No, right?
Is what, sorry?
Retitling, reissuing the ISRC to become for the new owner. I don't think it's very common here. We don't do that. No, right? So the one thing that people should know about is about advertising and ECAD. That's new. That's only Brazil. Maybe you guys can talk about that.
Go for it.
Go for it.
Okay. I don't know. I don't know the story very well, but for example, movies and TV, they all pay performance rights, right? That's what you call that, right?
Yeah.
Advertising doesn't. So if you compose music for advertising, you will not get money back from ECAD, from what would be SACEM in your case.
Even if it's a broadcast on TV.
None, zero, get nothing.
Okay.
It's a deal that was done between advertising organization and ECAD. So if you're writing some stuff for ads in Brazil, you should charge everything up front. Don't count on money coming back from performance.
So it's like cinema in the US.
Oh, is that it? I didn't know that.
Cinema in the US, there's no performance royalty because they said that the cinema, the whole métier, the whole cinema push to happen in the US in the 20s, they said it would never take off if they had to pay performance royalties, and they've never come back on that. So performance royalties, yeah, and in France as well. But in the US, it's for the negotiation, you have to take everything up front because if it's only going to play in the US, you're not going to get any tracking.
You even see that when you go to the movies, you get your ticket. It's there. ECAD is 0.0.
Like as Mauricio said, when the broadcasters send the cue sheet, they don't put the advertisement. They just put the songs in the regular program. But an interesting thing, I have some clients that they end up in a advertisement, but the advertisement was broadcasted, but it's also on YouTube. And they have there are a lot of views on YouTube, so they get money from YouTube because YouTube doesn't know if it's an advertising or not. So, and also like it's a song that they had released on an album, so the song got more popular. So they kind of got performance royalties because of that, but not directly, but more indirectly.
Okay. Cool. Well, that's really good to know. That's a big difference with the market here, because in advertising in France, you definitely get royalty, and in the rest of Europe, for that matter, you get royalties off the back of performance. Whereas it's harder to track with a VOD, for example. Mario?
And and also I want to share something because Brazil is a huge audience. So there's also a collateral, taking what Guilherme said and bringing to the sync film and TV perspective. There's a collateral result, which is increase the presence of the artist on the digital, because sometimes I just have this case with Disney that we have 40 tracks licensed, some of them from Kiwii as well. We have some tracks from there, and what happened is when the show started a week ago. So the show started, and some artists are seeing their Spotify monthly listeners double in a week. So this is the direct result of the show. So people put like Shazams on the music and
Yeah,
find the
make sure
soundtrack.
your music is on Shazam. Huh? Make sure everybody
Yeah,
put their music on Shazam.
absolutely. This is very important because when you have a big country like ours, a show like this, you can have like 10 million people watching, a million people watching, and these directly interfere in the digital distribution results.
Interesting.
And this is something that the production companies and the broadcasters and everybody try to gamble with this, like not to pay huge license fees because putting the music on that show can create different results for the artist. I don't totally agree with this. I think we have to separate and like pay the music what it deserves and leave the collaterals with the artist. But it's a
Mm.
reality when we are doing something with a big broadcaster.
But
The music is being broadcasted with me. You need to
Mario,
pay me.
maybe you can talk about novelas. Novelas is one
Yeah.
case where the deal is very it's interesting because you have to count on the performance money afterwards.
Yeah.
I don't know. Can you talk
Yeah.
about that? You have to speak.
Well, we've got 9 minutes, so yeah, go for it, and then we'll. We've only had one question so far. I'll just say if anyone watching has got any questions that you would like to pose, feel free, and we'll try and do that in the last 3-4 minutes.
So
Go for it, Mauricio.
I'll just add the stuff about novelas. I don't know, Mario, have you dealt with novelas before? Yeah. So can you explain how that works?
Yeah, I did, but not in a music supervision perspective, but in a music owner perspective, which is far better to be in. And we have, I don't know, maybe 30 tracks on different novellas in the past 10 years. And
This
basically,
just to clarify, novella is like a soap opera. It's like
it's a soap opera. Yeah, it's a big show with 120 episodes, daily basis broadcasted, and big broadcasters like Global or Record, they
Right.
they pay a lot of performance rights, so they are not
Like,
used to pay for license fees. It's kind of a blanket where they
Okay.
pay cheap license fees because they rely on the public performance rate, and sometimes one track, if it becomes like a character theme or an opening theme, you can receive more money than you would receive in 1,000 licenses. It's really
Mm-mm.
really massive. So, and
Wait,
apart
yeah.
from that, you have all the exposure for 40 million people on your track. So this can change the career of an artist.
So this is what we call in France, they call it flux, or like sort of music that is covered by these blanket licenses, and then you only get the performance royalty and you don't get a license request for a particular track. We have similar things, but I think the difference is the watchership, the people watching in Brazil, the numbers are much higher than in France because obviously your population is much bigger. So it's going to be generating a lot more than our Plus Belle la Vie or having it played around the news or something like that would here. Okay, we've got just a couple of questions. So someone has asked, Pedro, he asked for genres like, we've talked about how all genres are welcome, but he's asking specifically about classical music, jazz, bossa nova. Does it still have some space in the soundtrack industry for film, TV, novella, VOD?
Everything has a place. The thing is, it's a lottery. You have no idea to predict what's going to happen. We got, for example, he said bossa nova. Pedro said bossa nova. Pedro, we were there's a story. There's a documentary about bossa nova, about one moment in bossa nova that they had budget for. These are very expensive songs. I mean, you put "Girl from Ipanema," you're going to pay a lot of money to put that in your film. So they had enough money for 1 or 2 songs, and they needed bossa nova from unknown composers and unknown bands to fill the rest of the movie, and they needed 20. So we licensed 20 bossa nova songs from completely unknown bands, and they got more money that month than or that year than they got from streaming. So because instrumental music is not that much money in it, so you never know. Indian
Again,
song,
it's very creative led.
yeah, there was a novella that had an Indian theme, another one that had an Arabic theme. You never know. They may like that, and he plays. Remember Dissidenten? There was a band called Dissidenten that had a track, an Arabic track in a novella. It was a theme, and everybody knows that song in Brazil. It's very weird, but it happens. You never know. It's like when people ask me that, I say it's like playing the lottery. You can't guarantee you're going to win the lottery, but there's one way to guarantee you're never going to win the lottery: is not playing it.
True.
Then you have to be in the game. Just you don't waste too much money or effort in producing new stuff. Or just organize your stuff and get a deal with somebody in the country to get it distributed there. You never know. You may get a lot of money, you may get zero, but you have to play the game.
Okay.
But
and
like
just,
you have to be prepared with a publishing company, because like if you don't have a publishing company, they will find your song and they will not use it, and then you will like lose your lottery chance. You will have just one chance and you will pass out because like you're not prepared. So if you don't have a publishing company, probably you will lose the opportunity.
Okay, and just on the subject of potential partners, there's obviously loads of independent publishers in Brazil who are working there and working well. I'm sure that there's also a big force through major companies as well. Is there any company that you would suggest or dissuade people from using because it's not working so well? Share, dish the dirt, share a little bit.
This is the minefield question, right?
I know you have to be diplomatic, I'm sure, but
yeah, I want dissuade any company. But I mean, what I would suggest is any company that you want to work with, and there are a bunch of them in Brazil. You need to think about your objective. I mean, if you wanna be present on the social media and on the Spotify and stuff like that, look for companies that are good launching artists and campaigns and have presence and know how to work in digital. If you want to have more presence in sync, look for that company sync reel or what films they sync and etc. If you have a major work, if you have a big commercial music, go for the major labels, But if you don't have, go to the independent publishers, independent labels, because if you are like an unknown artist with an unknown work, even though your music can be good, when it comes from a major, I know it's going to cost more. So when I analyze the music to put on a show and I need to pay more than what I'm used to pay, I look to all things like social media traction, artist profile, my target audience involvement with that artist, and etc. to justify to the producers to pay 30 times more than I would pay on a catalog music, like a label, independent music, and etc.
So finding something that sort of mirrors the setup that someone might have in France would be your suggestion. If you're with a major.
We don't have much sync reps in Brazil as well, so there are not like a huge community of sync representatives. So you need to go after a publisher, publisher label preferably, because you have like one-stop shop. This counts a lot for us.
Make sure that the label, the publishing company that belongs to the label is actually doing their job. They're going to collect, for example, the money in in the digital platforms. For example, Spotify. Some of the publishing companies that belong to labels are not even doing that. Make sure that they're doing their job.
Collections. Okay, super. On that note, I think that's us. Thank you for your time and for your participation, Benjamin.
Yeah, thank you so much. Such a great panel. Thank you. Thank you, Guilherme, Mario, Mauricio. Thank you, Rachel. I think that was very useful. So now it's a wrap, but before leaving, we will have now some meeting with our guests. I just wanted to add that if you're interested in those topics and the markets in Latin America and Brazil in particular, again, you can watch again the panels. This one will be on replay for 1 year, and on the Centre de Ressources, Ressources Internationales, the resource center of CNM, you can find also the previous panels. Abroad Brazil, the previous one was with women only. It was how to click with Brazil about promotion and marketing. Today, only with men about synchronization. We tried our best to have a balance, but that was difficult to get the confirmation. But the content was so great, and we have both of these recent panels about the Brazilian market that are really, really good. So thank you so much, Dani, for helping and recommending the best profiles. These guys are just amazing. Thank you very much, and hope to see you again in other panel of CNM. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.